going to take a look at how to set up analog summing in the SSL Big Six. You could do similar things in any mixer that has built-in USB audio interface with multiple channels. But this one is obviously focused on the SSL Big Six. One of its big selling points for home and project studios is you do away with the need for an additional interface to take everything out of your DAW into the mixer, and it does really simplify things nicely actually, plus it sounds great to me. So I've done this on the last few tracks where I've worked pretty much in the box right until the end, done some, I'd say, rough mastering, more like pre-mastering, to get a track. Once it's arranged and edited and I'm happy with the overall track, I'll get it really close as I can to my reference tracks in terms of overall volume and balance of levels and the main EQing stuff. And then what I do is export individual stems, set up a new project in Ableton, and run those stems out through individual channels into the SSL6 to get that analog summing. And you can actually do two things at that point. The SSL Big Six is really clever in its routing. You can just sum back as a stereo, master output. You can at the same time run back out of the SSL every stem as it's being processed through the channel strips. For instance, if you're doing a touch of EQing or compression or anything like that, or you want to go into any outboard, which is something I'll do today, very briefly show you how I've got the SSL Fusion set up for that very purpose. The original project file had about 40 individual tracks, and I've summed those down here to let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 stems basically that I'm gonna send out to the SSL. And the reason for that is the SSL itself can take up to 4 mono and 6 stereo channels. So you could work with up to 10 for analog summing purposes. You could break your project down into 10 discrete tracks that you're going to run through the SSL's channels. But bear in mind, 4 mono and 4 stereo are 4 channel strips, and then 2 further stereo are just out of sight up here, but literally just external inputs like that, so you don't get the full channel strip control over those. As I said, my project has 8 total stems, and the way I've arranged those is to come out of the SSL using the 3 mono channels. I'm using the 4 stereo and one of the external inputs, which has a volume control here. I've just left it Unity. You'll see one of the reasons you might want to avoid using external input 2 is if you want to output individual channels as well as your master. The reason being, when it comes to feeding audio back into your DAW, if that's what you want to do, you have to choose between the master, which sends to USB 1516, and external 2, which sends to USB 1516. If you're going to run the individual tracks back out as well as the master bus, you're going to have to lose that external 2 channel as a return anyway, so it kind of messes up with the logic of doing that. Let's get back to setup then. In the DAW, you have obviously Big Six selected as input and output device. Have a quick look here how I've set mine up. You can just select everything, but I know that this is the way, this is the flexibility I need, so that I just have the one selected that I'm likely to use. And then, as you can see, I've gone through and selected external out, 1 for the kick, so that's coming out here, 2 for the bass, 3 for the 101, which is a sort of secondary bassline layer. Skip 4, got no use for that today, so we have a spare mono channel if we wanted it. Onto the stereo channels, I've got drums coming into 5 and 6, perks coming into 7 and 8, synths on 9 and 10, and the Vox coming in on 11 and 12. Don't worry about the track numbering here, by the way. That might be confusing. What you want to focus on is the selections here. This is the actual audio audio over USB routings that we're using to get these tracks out of the DAW into the SSL. That's this 13-14 selection is this one here. The instruments coming into external 1. And remember, for the reasons I explained before, I'm not bothering to use external 2 here. So that's how we've laid out the 8 stems that I'm gonna bounce down, if you like. And you see I've labeled with corresponding colored tape. Maybe a bit much, but you know, doesn't hurt. The various tracks. And going back into the project for a second, first thing to note is we have armed for recording this SSL stereo return channel. So as I said, that's on 15-16 coming out. And the same principle for the individual channels we want to capture. External in, and I'll just number them to correspond with what we've got up here. So these are the external outs sending our tracks into the SSL. These are the external ins receiving them back on the corresponding channel. So 1, 2, 3, 4 I've not bothered arming because I said we've got nothing going out to that. All the stereo pairs are armed, ready to receive the music back from the mixer. 15-16 we've also not armed because, as I said, that is being used for the master bus return. That's going to be our actual summed output of all the tracks we're sending in. So yeah, what we're set up to do there is once we'll just press play to give you a sample first. So you hear the kick at the start of the track, some of the percussions in the background coming through on 7/8. Just had a bit of Vox come in, main drums coming in there, 5 and 6. So this is all playing through nicely. I've already done a few tweaks over here. As you'll see, I've also got the insert set up there and powered up with, so on the main bus we have that running through the SSL. They're the current settings. I've had a bit of a play to get them in a place that I'm pretty happy with. So that's all up and running. And now you can hear the main groove going, different elements. Remember, Vox, synths, perks, drums, 101, the bass kick, and this is that what I call the instrument channel, which has basically got some, there you go, right on time, that little bit of dub guitar you just heard there coming in through that. And there's some other bits and pieces through the track that come in on that channel. There's our It's just a sampled vocal from an old ragga track. So I've given you a flavour of the track and how everything is actually set up to run into the SSL via the insert. Now, if I just check, I've armed everything on the return tracks and the master track that we want armed. Great. All we do now is we click the record button to start all of that playing again and to start our capture. Okay, so there we go. I'm going to zoom in a bit. We won't do the whole track, but there you go. So you can see we've got everything coming out of the stereo bus into SSL stereo tone. If I open up our individual channels, you can see we're now capturing at the same time. There's the kick track on one. If I open this up a bit, you'll see the various tracks all coming back in. So we'll have our individual stems as processed by DQ and everything else, alongside the main output that we're recording. So that's it. That's how you set up your analog summing out of your DAW into the SSL Big Six, and at the same time record it back on multiple channels.